You won't believe this, I don't believe it, but this is the 50th episode of Why Dance Matters. That seemed very unlikely when the Royal Academy of Dance first discussed a podcast in the depths of lockdown in 2021. Could we make a podcast? Would anyone appear on it? Would anyone listen? Amazingly, we could. They would. And you did. Honestly, these conversations have been some of the keenest pleasures of my working life. Thank you for joining us on the journey. We wanted a pretty special guest for our landmark episode, and here she is. Olga Smirnova is one of the world's unassailably great ballerinas. Her shining technique and sense of drama made her a star of the Bolshoi Ballet in Moscow. But that changed just 2 years ago when Russia invaded Ukraine. At that fearful moment, Olga spoke up on social media. With all the fibres of my soul, I am against the war, she said. I never thought that I would be ashamed of Russia, but now the line is drawn on before and after. Within days, she made the life-changing decision to leave Russia and the Bolshoi, where she had made her career, for the Netherlands and Dutch National Ballet. We've often spoken on the podcast about how a dancer's company feels like home. So how is it to have to make a new home? Is she still in touch with her former colleagues? Giselle is one of Olga's signature roles, and her performance in the romantic classic with Dutch National Ballet is in international cinemas this month. Giselle is a test for any ballerina, the innocent country girl betrayed by her aristocratic lover, but who nonetheless protects him from beyond the grave. How does Olga find her own way into this multifaceted heroine? I'm David Jays, and for the 50th time, I get to ask, why does dance matter? Olga, welcome to Why Dance Matters. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are speaking just as the production of Giselle from Dutch National Ballet is preparing to be streamed into cinemas across the world. So let's start there, because is it very different performing for the camera compared to a theatre audience? Because you must be so used to making sure the audience right at the back of the furthest balcony can get the essence of your performance. What is it like when the eye is the eye of a camera?
Thank you for invitation and for your first question. There is not that many differences between how you would dance in front of a camera or without one. You need to make a few adjustments to the way you act. For example, as ballet dancers, we are used to projecting our performance far enough to reach the audience even in the back row seats. When there is a camera involved, we must also be mindful that there will be many close-ups. We are more conscious about staying natural and not over-exaggerating. Also, now that smartphone cameras are everywhere, each one of your performances is recorded and posted on social networks. So you are conscious that you will be seen by millions of internet users. Actually, this recording will live forever. And this means that compared with ballerinas of the past, you feel greater pressure to do everything perfectly and just right.
Olga, I had never thought about that. So it's not just this particular performance where you know that people will be filming and sharing and viewing. It's every performance that you think someone could catch me at my absolute best, at my not quite best, at an odd angle. It could just be out there, not in your control.
Exactly. This is a new era of being a ballerina, when everyone can capture any moment of your performance and it might be a good one and it might be a bad one. So you cannot control it.
Are you quite good at not letting that be a pressure for you? As you say, there's nothing you can do. Does that mean that you can just forget about that and say, whatever happens, happens, I'm just dancing this performance now?
I'm trying not to think about it. As I said, I cannot control it. Just sometimes I understand it's quite a pressure, but I can't do anything. I just need to perform as best as I can. Every performance there might be some cameras, and the people can film from different angles, sometimes not very good ones. So we just need to understand how it works nowadays.
And let's talk about Giselle herself, the character, because she's a heroine of the ballet that you have danced through your career. Every dancer, every great ballerina has danced Giselle. How do you find your way into the character to make her Olga's Giselle?
I've already danced 5 different versions of Giselle at different theaters and by different choreographers. Also, my Giselle has evolved over time, I believe. I'm particularly thankful to Alexei Ratmansky, with whom I worked on his version of Giselle. And with Alexei, I had a chance to develop this character in great detail and depth. And unlike the widespread notion of Giselle as a sickly, otherworldly girl, Ratmansky saw her as the opposite, vibrant, joyful, energetic spirit in the first act. And I remember Ratmansky said clearly, like, Giselle loves 3 things: dancing, Albrecht, and her mother. So this led me also to adjust my take on Giselle and present her with more vivacity and even inner motor in the first act.
That's really lovely. So she's not just a victim of all the things that happened to her.
Not at all. And it's really took some adjustments in my view of this role.
When you say you're making adjustments, is it like a different colour that you give steps and phrases and moments?
Yes, absolutely. It's just a different color. You just add different layers. For example, now performing even in other versions of Giselle, not only in Ratmansky, I added this bright side of character of Giselle. And she seems more vivid, joyful, bright and energetic, not so weak.
And as you say, you've danced several different productions. I guess quite a lot of different partners, being Albrecht opposite you. In this performance, the Dutch National Ballet one, it's Jacopo Tisi, the Italian dancer who danced with in Russia. How does a new partner change the way the character emerges?
For me, having the right contact with my partner is hugely important. This is especially true in Giselle, given the significance of the dramatic element in the relationship between Giselle and Albrecht. It's important for me when partner is able to give space for a little improvisation, and when he also can follow my improvisation. And when I say improvisation, I do not mean changing the choreography. I just mean being sensitive and being involved in the story so deeply that we can create a feeling of spontaneity and naturalness. Of course, the way my partner is playing Albrecht also reflects in my interpretation. But before the performance, we need to find out what we are going to act, how we are going to act in the studio. We need to prepare. Only then we bring our interpretation on stage.
It's a big acting role, Giselle. It's a very dramatic role, but it's also a huge technical dancing challenge. When you're in the middle of a performance, what's happening in your brain? Are you thinking about what comes next, the difficult bits, the challenges, or can you lose yourself in the story?
No, I'm trying to be involved in the story completely. So when I'm already on stage, I don't think about technical difficulties. I'm focusing on the storytelling, on my details of the character, on the relationship with Albrecht and with other dancers. I'm mostly focusing on acting, especially in Giselle, where is so much you can act.
And is it an emotional ballet to perform? How do you feel at the end of a performance?
I always feel quite exhausted after the performance, of course, because you put everything, you live with your character from the beginning until the end. You just really give 100% of your effort to deliver the best performance you could deliver.
Olga, you're not one of those ballerinas who started dancing when they were 3, took their first classes before they were 4, came from a family of dancers. In a way, you started relatively late. 10 was when your proper training began. How did that happen?
As you said, I do not come from a ballet family. And also my family was not wealthy enough to afford taking their kids to a ballet performance. So I started by taking folk dancing lessons at the local kids center. And this gave my mother the idea of taking me for a tryout at the Vaganova Ballet Academy. I presume that I had a proper musicality, so I was accepted. But the obsession with dance and ballet came much later, after years of studying at the academy.
Oh, really? So you weren't sure that it was what you wanted to do with your life straight away?
No, I didn't dream of becoming a ballerina. I even didn't have any idea what ballet is. So just only later, gradually, I learned the endless beauty and harmony of ballet as an art. I was inspired by the shows at the Mariinsky Theatre, which I attended as a student, and later as a performer of children's roles. These roles, when I performed as a kid, these roles were not difficult to dance, but it was amazing to spend time in the wings watching real artists and ballet stars. And that was when I started to dream about dancing also main roles like Nike, Giselle, other prominent ballet roles.
So it was when you could see performances that all the time in the class and in the studio and all the lessons in technique, it made sense because you could see where they were heading.
Yes, I was inspired very much.
Did you always feel at home on stage when you first started giving performances?
I've never felt fear of stage. Even when I was a kid and I was taking these children's roles in the performances, I don't remember I had a fear. Never.
That's amazing and wonderful. So there's no sort of waste of energy in kind of making yourself nervous and calming yourself down and getting nervous again and all of that.
No, later when you have a pressure to be a ballerina, when you did a lot of performances and people expect to see some quality from you, of course there is some pressure and sometimes I feel nervous. But once I'm on stage, once I do the first step, I became very calm and I'm just enjoying being on stage and being my character. I'm not nervous anymore.
If we had been having this conversation just 2 years ago, it would have been in a very different context, because it was only in that time that Russia has invaded Ukraine and the war is still continuing. And you very quickly after that went on social media to protest against the war. And soon after that, you had to make a decision to leave Russia. How long was that process, that question in your mind before you made the decision?
The decision was obvious for me. This made it easier. But of course, it meant huge changes. So this made it difficult. First of all, because I never lived in a foreign country before. And then a new language, new country, new traditions, new company. All of that was a big challenge. I was lucky to find great support at Dutch National Ballet and find support from director Ted Branson, with whom actually I felt instant chemistry when I had the first conversation with him. And I also felt the support from the company, which is very international.
It's interesting because a lot of dancers who we've spoken to on the podcast will talk about a classical ballet company as a family because you spend so much time together, so many years together. So did it feel like having to find a new family and then find your place in people who had established relationships, ways of working? It is, I guess, like turning up in a new big family, like the new stepchild.
I can confidently say that Dutch National has now become my home. Of course, I will be always grateful to this company for making my transition as smooth as possible, but also participating in a repertoire, doing great classical productions, working with the choreographers. It's a huge reward. I'm enjoying dancing still very, very much. Even in this hard moment of transition, being involved in rehearsals and performances from the very first days, it's actually saved me because I immediately immersed in rehearsals and performances. It helped me to adapt quicker. Within 3 weeks of joining the company, I already danced in Raimondo.
The good thing about dance is there's always a new challenge, isn't there? There's always a new role, a new production, a new teacher, there's always a something that you can focus your mind on. Are there new opportunities that are opening up to you now that you're in a different company?
Working with Dutch National allows me to work with Larissa Lizhnina. She is my tutor at Dutch National. And we work together on classical ballets, on Swan Lake, Raimondo, Sleeping Beauty, Giselle. And she came originally from the Vaganov Academy and the Mariinsky Theater. So for me, she epitomizes the St. Petersburg ballet style and traditions in their purest form. And that is very, very important for me because I want to preserve and reflect these traditions in my style of dancing. So first of all, I'm very proud to rehearse with Larissa. Also, the great choreographers would like to work with Dutch National. And we did the whole evening of Bill Forsyth's ballets last season. And this season, Wayne McGregor will create new productions. We will start in a few days to work with him. So I'm really excited and look forward to these moments.
And that relationship with your teacher, with your coach who you work with, it's really unique, isn't it? You have to find someone who you can trust completely and who sees you as you need to be seen.
It's what I get used to have in Russia at the Bolshoi, my teacher, my tutor, who always with me, to whom I can trust to help me enormously. No matter how much I'm experienced as a ballerina, we always need this help from the person to whom you trust. So Larissa, for me, it's this person with great taste who enormously helps me, especially to prepare the classical repertoire. I'm still learning a lot from her. I hope I can preserve these traditions in my style.
Are you still having any contact with your former colleagues? Do people reach out to you, or is there no contact at all now?
No, not many. Just really a few ones with a few people.
And how are they doing? It must feel very odd for the company that used to be touring the world and seen by international audiences now to sort of shut its doors and be performing mostly in Russia, in Moscow?
I don't know exactly, because I didn't have many conversations with them. But of course, I think they feel weird not to be able to touring, to sharing their experience with other world, and not many choreographers coming now to work with them. I think people also don't want to talk about it, or they might be afraid to share their honest opinion. I really hope it will end as soon as possible, because people are still dying, and it's not correct. It's a terrible thing. And I just pray that it will stop as soon as possible.
Olga, it has been such a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much for talking about everything from Giselle to the wide world. But I'm going to bring you back to the final question, which is, why does dance matter to you?
Dance is an art form. And for me, the mission of art is about revealing the unseen, human motivation, human emotions, and the meaning of human life. And I like to think about my body as a tool, which helps to reveal and express different emotions and share these emotions with the audience. And I believe that the more people share their emotions with one another, the better they come to understand one another. This helps create a better and more harmonious world, in my opinion. I have also been thinking a lot about the recent conversation with Jean-Christophe Maillot on this topic, and we talked about the way in which art helps us accept our inevitable death and not be blinded by our fear of it. In a way, art helps us find the inspiration to exist. And I just want to share this inspiration with the world.
That is a very beautiful and profound place to end. Thank you so much, Olga. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Olga was such a thoughtful guest. It was a privilege to talk to her for this 50th episode of Why Dance Matters. It wasn't just the revelation about never feeling stage fright or the challenges of being a ballerina in the age of smartphones. A sense of integrity that seems to be at Olga's core. I can't help wondering if that informs her approach to Giselle. Not a victim, as she says, but someone who follows her truth. Dutch National Ballet's Giselle is in international cinemas on the 21st of January. You'll find details in our show notes, as well as more about the Royal Academy of Dance and its social media. And of course, you can fossick through all of our previous episodes. Our launch episode was with the wonderful dancer Xander Parish, who was at the time a principal at the Mariinsky Ballet in St. Petersburg. Like Olga, he's left Russia behind him. A sobering sense of coming full circle. The next season of Why Dance Matters begins in February. We'll have inspiring artists, passionate RAD teachers, guests with unexpected dance connections. If I were you, I'd subscribe and like the podcast so that you don't miss a single enthralling conversation. Our guest today was Olga Smirnova. Why Dance Matters is made by the RAD team of Niamh Carey-Furness, Keisha Dodd and Katie Hagan, and our artwork is by Bex Glendinning. And we would never have created our first episode, let alone made it to 50, without our incredible producer, Sarah Miles. I'm David Jays. Take care and see you soon.